In my career, when I have a time to really connect to Gemara, and it happens, I'll tell them, there are other things to learn, and Gemara isn't the only thing, which of course is hard for people to hear because it's so primary in really almost all yeshivas, certainly the yeshivas that I'm connected to, but really around the world. And there are good reasons for it. But I will tell that Talmud, um, the Iker thing is to be connected to Talmud Torah, not just Gemara. And there is a place for you in Jewish learning. And anybody who this is not really the point I'm getting to, but if you are that person, please listen carefully. Find other things in Jewish learning. Don't not just chesed and davening and guitar playing, nice things for sure. Chas v'shalom, I'm not putting those things down at all. But believe that you do have a place in Talmud Torah. Every Yid has a place in Talmud Torah, but it might not be in Gemara. But what I do say, and here's the point I'm trying to get to, is that come back to it. And just because it's not working for you now doesn't mean it won't work for you in some future time, which I think is a good, healthy advice. And if in fact recently I ran into a brilliant Talmud, I think probably the smartest Talmud I ever had, who had this issue. Who was good at Gemara, but he just didn't connect to it. And I mamish ran into him, and I said to him, "Oh, how is your relationship to Gemara?" And he looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what do you mean? Say, well, I remember once upon a time you weren't so connected to Gemara. And he said, "Oh, you remember that? So it was a long time ago." So it does happen. Now, why am I sharing this right now after being away for 2 weeks and missing the Vaad? As I said, I would. I did have some happiness to send something when I was on the road, but you're so all over the place, especially because I drive a lot. Drove from Baltimore to New York, from New York to Baltimore, etc. Drove a lot in Las Vegas area, etc. Or should I avoided the Las Vegas Strip, but outside of Las Vegas, I had to drive a lot. But anyway, I share this because the idea that we were working on last time, I'll just remind everybody we had this amazing idea from Rabbi Rucham that the idea of being a Chacham is that it's inside of you. And I saw some of the feedback, which I was happy that some people related to on some level. But I'll tell you what I was feeling as I was thinking about it. This is really something that's out of my range. And we're really gonna sharpen it over our time together today. I'm excited about what I'm about to share. But I usually don't have this feeling, but it was kind of like serious imposter syndrome. Like, who am I trying to kid? Like the Chayom Nota B'Sochein, it's inside of me, the wisdom. It was really far away from me. And the truth is that and then like going back and forth, no, maybe I do have some shaykhs to the idea and try to think about it. And again, it wasn't in the best place of reflection because on these trips you are busy and you're fighting jet lag and you're rushing to get from place to place and planes and cars and all that stuff. Not that there's no time, but a lot of times once you do have a little bit of time to sit down and relax, your mind's a little bit fried. And if you do have a little bit of time, you want to do some regular learning also. I'm not making excuses, but those are the feelings that were going around to me. This is not you. Um, Maybe some other people are shaykh to it. Maybe some people are fooling themselves that they're shaykh to it. Maybe some people actually are shaykh to it. I'm always open to the fact that people are on a different level than me, of course. And then these imposter syndrome ideas that were there, like really the chacham was inside of me. So back to what I started with, right? That was the second point I wanted to share. That Gemara note is that I feel over here because this is an idea which I have. This Rabbi Yerucham hit me the strongest I think I've ever had in my life. But I've heard the idea before. Certainly heard the idea that Avram learned Torah from himself. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but that my brother-in-law told me that Moshe Shapiro said that there were people who were like known as kind of like drunk. Seriously, they're known as being like drunk people, and they were tremendous chachamim, and they used their. I think the way he said it was they used their drunkenness or their like as like a cover. I don't even know if they actually drank, but people thought they were drunk. These are madrigas and types of people we don't have today. We don't even imagine. But there was this thing that there were people, Chachamim Gedolim, who were Nistarim. We talk about a tzaddik Nister, and we don't really know what that means today. But there were tzaddik in Nistarim, and there were some famous people, I think, were even considered like drinkers. And that was all a cover for there being a tzaddik Nister. That's not Ramon Shapira. And I think my brother-in-law one time was speaking to the greater Moshe Shapiro, and he said to them that they learned Torah me'atzmam. They were tremendous Talmid Chacham. I think my brother-in-law asked him, like, how did they, how did they know Bichlal? Because they're always busy. No one ever saw them with a sefer, right? So my answer would have been, well, they learned before that. Moshe said, no, no. He said they were me'atzmam lamdu Torah, which is really incredible. So I just want everybody to get that, take that in. Ramosh Shapiro said, I have from a reliable source, my brother-in-law, who I've mentioned before, is very, very close to Ramosha in a very personal way, not just, listening to him and giving share to another 100 people, which is also good. But my brother was mamish, from a close, close Talmud, who he was in his kolo for maybe 2 decades together. They were, together daily for 15 years or 20 years. My brother was very talented, so they learned a lot together and they spend a lot of time with each other, etc. So this is one conversation he told me about one time. So just in terms of the reason I'm bringing that is like this idea that Rabbi Schoonmaker spoke about, there were people in history, not 700 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, or 80 years ago, 90 years ago, 150 years ago, something like that, in Europe, we'll call them in Europe, the Europe we relate to, that were, Moshe said, were on this madrega, that lumdum Torah mi'atzmum, which is really incredible. So we have Avram Avinu, we have these people, we have Rabbi Yerucham talking about it, something that we can equate, and we have Rabbi Yerucham, Rabbeinu Yonah saying that's idea, Lom Mikol Adam, is the person who knows nothing, yet he's a Chacham Ba'atzmo, because he has this purity and the Torah is flowing inside of him. Okay, then we have us, right? So for me, I will say that idea still is like imposter syndrome idea. I can't say I really relate to it or find it in myself or feel it in myself. Not that I have no intuition about anything, but to feel like it's an intuition of Torah. I think maybe that's what I do feel I have some wisdom and I understand things, but to have like a feeling like I'll be mechavan to the Das Torah or something like that. I think I can be mechavan to a good idea. I think I'm mechavan to a good eitzah, but to mechavan to like the Torah idea, right? Mi'atzim lom the Torah, I think is very far away from me. Okay, so but the reason I gave that introduction was because it's a type of idea that which I think is fit to come back to, because it does seem like it's part of what wisdom is. Meaning, you can hear Kabbalistic idea of some, you put your ear on some Kabbalist learning one time, and they're talking about, terminologies that you don't understand or know. So maybe you'll learn Kabbalah one day, maybe you won't, but you don't necessarily have a sense that that's an idea you have to come back to, because maybe it's not an idea for you, right? There were many Gedolei Yisrael that didn't learn Kabbalah. So some people learn Kabbalah, some people don't learn Kabbalah. Rav Asher Weiss, I heard say that most Gedolei Yisrael didn't learn Kabbalah intensely. So okay, so maybe you won't get back to those terminologies. This idea doesn't feel like that to me. This idea feels like an idea that we have to come back to. So that's why that's what I wanted to share. Where I'm holding right now about this idea in itself is it's past me, but not so far past me that I won't think about it again in the future in a way which will try maybe relate to it a little bit another time. Okay? And now, next part, I just want to share that, very important to my friends who are listening, super important, not about this idea, but there are ideas that you should recognize that are not for you now, but might be for you in another time. Meaning, again, there are ideas you hear, or hasagas that we hear about, levels we hear about, tzaddikim, things like that, and a person says to himself, that's not for me, and there's no reason for me to think it's ever for me, and you don't necessarily, you heard something, you heard it, and there it ends, right? And there it ends. And there are ideas which are shaykh to us, and we say, wow, this would really improve my learning, my shalom bayis, my chesed. This is an idea I can attach myself to. I heard a shir. We've discussed many times the idea of low-hanging fruit, right, which a person should definitely engage in. But then there's a middle. So there are categories which are, let's say, call it like deeply shaykh to us. There are categories which are called like beyond us. And there are categories which are between those, which are, right now it's not for me, but, I'll keep my mind open, keep my heart open. Another time it might be shaykh to me. And I think that's important just for us to understand our world of ideas. What are the ideas which are way, way past me? What are the ideas which are shaykh to me right now and I should be doing or I could be doing or etc. Or let's put it on my list. And then there are things which are, not even in my bucket, they're outside of my bucket, but they're not totally divorced from me. And another time in my life I can visit them. Why is that important? Because our job is in this world to grow. And this is obviously an idea that one could grow with and develop And even though it's not right, so there are ideas which are not for me to grow with, right? The idea of like, I don't know, thinking up shiurim when I'm sleeping is maybe not an idea for me to grow with, but there are ideas which are out there. So again, friends, that's what I want to share. Don't, don't put yourselves down and realize sometimes you'll hear an idea about chesed, about Torah, about avoda, about midos, about shalom bayis, about a lot of ideas which you can't imagine yourself being in now, but you can can, yes, imagine revisiting and being shaykh to in another future time. And you can have a backlist in your head of things sometimes that I'll think about. Before next Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, I'll visit this idea. Maybe the answer will be, oh, that's still not for me. Maybe it will be. Okay, good. So now that's that. Now moving on. So where do we go now? So I wasn't really sure. I had a lot of ideas over the travel about what to do next in the Vaad, and I was happy I had them. I forgot some of them, unfortunately. So when I sat down to think about what we're going to talk about today, I do listen carefully, and I'll explain hopefully clearly what I'm doing now. I don't really relate to this level, but I do see that we can relate to a wisdom which is inside of us and stop going weiter. Let me explain. Often someone will read a book, um, and it's a book which you need. It could be on shalom bayis, it could be on being a good employer, good employee, time management, Torah, avoda, gemilas chasadim, lahavdil. Um, and you're just wolfing it down. Boom, 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 7 habits, 8 habit, 9th habit, 10th habit, 12th habit, right? 5 levels, seven topics, 10 dumb mistakes, right? So you get all the numbers, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, hot, right? Now, so now let's take that person for a second. And I imagine many of us are there sometimes. There's something it's very unintelligent. Right? There are people who just their whole life is a waste of time, right? They're just being entertained, Rahman al-Islam. Not that it's bad to be entertained sometimes, right? But people who have their goal in life is just to be entertained. I'm going to go through this TV series. That's my goal for this year. That's just a very, very sad point for a year to be, or just make sure to watch all the playoff games, or that's your goals, right? No, so we have goals to grow. So we're in there. But sometimes, here's the point, listen carefully, that our sense of ourselves is just like we're kind of like machine-like just to go through a lot of ideas. And we don't relate to the fact that we have to really integrate the ideas. And we just like will wolf down a book about ideas, and then wolf down the next book about ideas, and wolf down the next book about ideas. And we're into ideas and growth and all that. And we don't realize that we're never really integrating into ourselves and becoming an expert. Okay. So now I'm not pushing Chazara here. I'm pushing something deeper. I'm pushing the fact that we're missing something in ourselves that we don't see, that we become a source of wisdom. I'm reading a book like Shalom Bayis, and now I'm reading another book about Shalom Bayis, another book just to like kind of have lots of ideas filtering in my head or whatever. But I don't appreciate that my goal is that I become on whatever level an expert in Shalom Bayis. I use the word expert, not meaning expert that people ask my opinion or not. Whatever level you want to accomplish by knowing something about Shalom Bayis, you becoming a repository, right? A reservoir of ideas about Shalom Bayis. No. The ideas are in the book, and I'm just reading the book. No. The idea of the ideas in the book is eventually the ideas become part of you, and then you can use them. It's so obvious, right? But I hope everybody gets what I'm saying. It's a deep point, right? There's I'm reading novels and being entertained, just passing time. Okay. No, I'm reading ideas. I'm in the world of Chachma, I'm in the world of improvement, etc. But something didn't click that I recognize. Like the point of these books is it becomes part of me that I can use. Take that in for a second. You can now. Here's what I want to emphasize about this unintelligent process. You don't realize that you can be knowledgeable. You, not the book. you don't realize that you can be an expert. You, not the book, not your notes, not necessarily even your YouTube instructional videos. That you are a hefza of knowledge. It's an interesting thing. So now, and something that makes that worse in our time, but this problem existed before this, is ChatGPT and Google, right? I don't have to know things because Google knows it. I've even heard like people say this. It's shocking to me. You don't need to know anything because ChatGPT knows it. That is one of the most foolish things I've ever heard in my life. What do you mean? So ChatGPT, so mankind stopped because of chat. There are things you don't need to know. Correct. Let him worry about X, Y, Z. But you don't understand the human being should know mathematics. I shouldn't know 3 times 4 equals 12 because I can put it into a computer or leave it on a chip. A human being should know mathematics. Right? Of course you can. Human being has to know how not to get angry. So ChatGPT can give advice on not getting angry, but I get angry. What's wrong with this? It means you're selling out on your humanity. But that idea, does, and it gets confusing because I would agree definitely, that there are things you don't need to know because you can ask the computer. So you don't have to worry. I don't worry about direction. Don't say like we don't say it's a chisaron in mankind now that we don't know we need ways. I think not using, right, as opposed to people you that's a very good example. So we don't need to know, right? You don't need to know how to drive somewhere because let Waze think about how to drive because there's no etzem mile in humanity knowing how to drive somewhere. So let the computer know how to drive. Correct. But there are so many things which there's a mile in a person. And every bit of Torah is like that. Every bit of self-development is like that. Every bit of a human, that's what a human is. A human is someone who has stuff, okay? But it's a problem. Now, so another problem in our thinking is that we think it's only dependent memory. We think if we have very good memories, I will be an expert. But I want to say, this is how we think. We think if I have a good memory, I will be an expert. If I don't have a good memory, I won't be an expert. So I want to say like this. You can have a wonderful memory and not be an expert, and you can have a weak memory and be an expert. It's so important we're talking about this, friends, because we're talking about what it means, Aizehu Chacham. So really touching on all what it means to be a Chacham here, right? So those are two mistakes we made. So now we have to see ourselves as being reservoirs of wisdom. So now you should be wondering right now, this guy is being so to himself. He just said at the beginning this whole thing about imposter syndrome, and he has no shaykhs to what Yerucham is talking about, and it's an idea to revisit, just like his Talmidim should revisit learning Gemara. Now he's talking about being a reservoir of wisdom. So let me explain where I relate to the idea and where I don't relate to the idea. I do relate, listen carefully, to us as being the composite and curator of many good ideas that we hear and develop and learn about. That I relate to, right? Rabbi Yerucham was speaking about something deeper than that even if you didn't learn, you'll be like Aaron Avinu. Okay, so make sure just to go forward, everything we spoke about at the beginning was that. Right? Rabbi Yerucham was talking about Chayol Nata B'Sochenu, inside of you is the wisdom. Meaning you don't really, and just like that drunk guy, like Ramosh Shapiro was saying, they know. Amram Avinu knew from himself without being taught. Okay? That's one level of idea which I don't relate to so much. I don't know how to access it. I hear it, but I don't access it myself. Me personally, you might. Very good. I can only talk about what I can talk about. Okay, big mark, right? Mavdil ben Berakia. Mavdil ben the Rakia, being Mavdil ben the Mayim Elyon Mayim Tachonim. What I do relate to is that inside of you, there's wisdom that you've learned, and now what you present to the world is your composite of being all those Torah and good ideas, and your curation, good word I've been working on recently, right? Like a curator in a museum is a curator. You're a filter, a composite, and curator of good ideas that you have that you bring to the table. So, Eric, the idea is it's clear, right? The difference between those two things. I'm a source be'etzem, a spring of be'etzem of ideas without anybody teaching me or learning or anything. It's just there. Don't get it. I believe it, but I don't get it. Not for me right now. Something else called I've learned a lot. I've read books. I've learned Torah, right? And we've all learned something, right? All of us, anybody on this VOD or an older group, life experience, etc. And now we today are presenting ourselves to the world as a composite of many good ideas, hopefully, and curated ideas and filtered ideas. And that we do have a lot of wisdom. Okay. And that is something that I certainly can access, and I believe we can access. But I think also we often, now you'll understand, often I think we have a mistake in our head that we don't appreciate that about ourselves. Because take the mother who's having chinuch abanim problems, she thinks the answer is only with the Rav, only with the expert, only in the book, only in Dr. Spock, only in Sarah Chana Radcliffe. There's no chachma in her. No, 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 no. You have learned a lot about this topic. You know your child, right? Don't think the answer is only outside of yourself. Realize the answer is inside of yourself, perhaps, very likely. Okay? Now, I want to, so this is big. So, and this, by the way, this is a great example of when an idea is too big for us, but on a lower level we can relate to it. So Lahadia, this is not what Rabbi Rucham said. This is not Aizehu Chacham, let me call them what Rabbi Rucham said. But it's another level of learning from ourselves. And because Rabbi Rucham introduced this idea to me, so then when I sat down to it, I realized that Rabbi Rucham is too high for me, but there's another level that I can access, which it opened me up to, okay, which is a good process. So I think there are three problems that we have to do this. I think there are three things we have to do if we want to touch on the chachma inside of ourselves. And again, why is that important? I mean, it's so obviously important. Why are you looking outside? And there's a lot of times, even if you're someone who has a good connection to Rabbanim, I was just in Chutz La'aretz, you see certain people have very good connection to Rabbanim, some people don't. You can't ask a Rav everything. And even if you ask a Rav everything, he doesn't know your situation. But out of so, there's always going to be something he doesn't understand, right? And that's you have to ask, you have to know, you have to think about it. So here's the problems. Here are three issues I think that we have to overcome to connect to this idea. One is you have to slow down. We think we need to answer things right away, right? Now, the right away answer often is not in us because we're not that big experts, right? Again, some people here might be very, very big experts in their field or whatever they do in their jobs, right? So maybe you're the expert, right? Maybe you're the go-to person for this. But often you're not the go-to person. So you don't necessarily believe you're the go-to person. So you have to be a little patient with yourself to tap into the wisdom that's inside of you, that you've learned and curated and filtered and got clear and broken down. So don't feel pressure. Take it easy, right? Access the depths of yourself with patience and calm. The next thing is, I think sometimes we lack confidence. I know for me sometimes, look, I come across as a confident person. I do have a certain confidence, Baruch Hashem, you know, but I know that sometimes I don't believe myself enough to know that the answer is inside of me. It can't be something I know already. I have to read another book. I have to ask another shayla. I have to build another shir to know the answer to that question. No, have some confidence that there are things you've learned, obviously with a proper dose of humility. But if you think you can't answer anything, that's bad. I mean, we're all who we were 10 years ago. Is that really what we want to think about ourselves? I'm the same exact person, the same exact woman, same exact man. I know as much about chinuch abanim today, once I have, 5 kids, as I knew when I didn't have any kids. That's ridiculous. You don't have confidence. You have to have confidence in yourself. And the third thing, I think, there might be other, but this is what I came up with, is that you have to be in a general retaining mode. This is related to what I spoke about before. Sometimes we approach wisdom. Again, I'm talking about not the person who's just wasting his time, on social media. So you got to get off of social media. You're spending too much time on it. No, I'm not saying a little bit this, that, but where your head is. But the person who's trying to be, develop the mind, develop the good ideas, you have to also you have to want to be konit. I spoke to a Kira professional recently, a pretty famous Kira professional, and I tried to tell him he should learn my book on. For those who don't know, I wrote a book on retaining learning specifically, And I told this fellow maybe he should learn. I forgot what he said that prompted it, and I said, oh, maybe you should learn my sefer. And he said it was very telling. What he said was that was that really part of the picture? Do I really have to do more than just learn? He didn't, I mean, this is someone who teaches Torah to other people, and he didn't see, and maybe other people, I don't get that response too much, but it could be made that some people are thinking, like, really, I have to know something? So it shows me that people are in a mode that I don't necessarily have to know anything. I'll just go to a Daf Yomi Shir and I'll go in one ear and go out the other, and that's all I have to do. Now, if you don't have enough time and if you're squeezing to learn half hour a day and that's making kvias, that's good. I'm not putting anybody down. But you have to understand there's more to learning than that, right? So so there's a mode. I didn't write this in the safer, but there's a mode, it's an approach, right? I think even the first reason that people don't remember anything is because they don't necessarily approach a topic, something they have to remember. Yeah. Now you think about it with a self-help book. It's a foolish thing, right? You didn't pick up a novel. You picked up a self-help book because you want help. That's why you picked it up. But you're not at all thinking about being coned to the ideas in the book. That's ridiculous. So just read the novel, unless you just enjoy lishma. So you're just reading the self-help book lishma just for the idea? No, you're reading the book on time management because you want to become a better time manager, which is obvious, but for some reason we don't always think about it that way. We're just no, I'm just here to hear more and more ideas. I'm going to another shir. I think I've said this before that sometimes this word chizuk is misused in our tzibur. I just want chizuk. Chizuk, 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 chizuk. We need chinuch. Chinuch means I need to know the right approach. I don't just want chizik to daven. I want chinuch to daven. Maybe I need an approach towards davening, and I'll go to a shir which will give me an approach towards davening. It will be mechazik me or won't be mechazik me, etc. It's like we view things sometimes as like we just need like a pill. It's like give me an upper or something, give me an amphetamine just to get me more ovid, more, just stark, just jump up and down, stark. You have to mechanech yourself, right? You have to treat yourself. See, you have to be friends in a mindset. So those are three issues I think that stop us from realizing the wisdom that we have inside of ourselves and building it more. Sometimes we have to slow down and give ourselves the time to answer because our answer is not as fast as the real expert, right? Everybody is going to ex-rabbi for chinuch habanim, ex-rebbitzin for chinuch habanim. He or she is the expert. So your answers aren't going to be as sharp and as fast as theirs because they're the expert, but you're also an expert. So you have to slow down. You have to have confidence in yourself. And you have to be in a general mode that I'm trying to build myself. I'm so happy we're talking about this because this is, Aizehu Chacham, this is what it means to be a Chacham, right? A Chacham is someone who has wisdom, right? So I might take me a little bit longer to touch on my wisdom, and I have confidence that I have some wisdom, right? And I'm in a mode where I want to be someone who has wisdom, man or woman, whatever area of wisdom it is. So now, so Baruch Hashem, so if you think about it, so we've been kind Rabbi Yerucham a little bit to ourselves again. It's not what he said, but it's a step in the right direction, right? Rabbi Yerucham was talking about you're a source of wisdom in yourself. Atachon eladam das. You have it in you. Here, maybe, I don't know what that means for me, but I do know that I've learned an enormous amount, and I know that, as we all have, and I know we've all learned an enormous amount of something, and I know that there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience and a lot of stuff inside of me. And at this stage in our lives, it's time for us to deal with that, right? So now, and I think that's a lot of, I'm very happy because again, it goes back to Aizehu Chacham, lo mikol adam, but one of the adam that we have to learn from is ourselves. That was our chiddush 3 weeks ago, which is still there on a lower level. Learn from yourself. Yes, you have wisdom in you that is attainable and accessible. And if you think about it, it's a little bit silly, right? Because what are you going to do? You want to learn from other people. Well, but guess what? If the answer's inside of you, you don't have to go learn from other people. Realize the chachma that's inside of you. It sounds nice even, right? So what's the Kabbalah? I want everybody to try to do this. Any question that's asked of you or any topic you wonder about, right? You start to think about something, wherever possible, right? And at certain times, persons at work need an answer really fast, but wherever possible, push yourself in this direction. Someone asks you a question, one, or you yourself are wondering about a certain question. It could be in learning, or it could be in how to do your work. It could be something in your marriage, or in the chinuch habanim, or something, wherever it is, right? Dealing with the rain, dealing with the snow, dealing with the cold. I don't know, whatever it is, any issue that comes up, wherever possible. Don't check online. Don't ask someone else. Don't run to Svarim. Spend a good time, answer the question from yourself. What is inside of you on this topic. You're not just a list of Marmar Komas. Marmar Komas are good. I know this Rashi, I know this thing. That's very good. But even more than that, like what's your tfisa? Come in touch with your own tfisa. Later on, you can check if you answer correctly. But like just like fight yourselves not to go for the quick fix of Google or ChatGPT or a Rav or your Chavrusa or someone else. Like train yourselves to think yourself about whatever topic it is. And when we think about it, when I think about it, it's silly a little bit, right? Because what are we doing? We're we're lomi mikol adam. I'm going to learn from the secular. Uh, I'm going to learn from the secular or non-Jewish taxi driver. Very good, very good. Leave it. But you're not going to learn from yourself. That's not gaiva. That's not gaiva. Guy means I have to think I know nothing. I mean, if you know nothing after you're 40, you're 35, you're a mother, you're a father, you've had five children, you've learned nothing about chinuch habanim, nothing about shalom bayis. That's pretty sad, right? And it's not true. You have, but you haven't accessed it because you haven't spent the time to come to your answers. You don't have the confidence, and you're not always enough in a retention mode, right? But this is what it means to be a Muslim and to learn things and to realize that now a person, there are a lot of things I know about. And that's not gaiva. Please don't think that's gaiva. The fact that we think it's gaiva is another thing which holds us back, right? Oh, I can't think I know anything. Well, where does it say you have to believe you know nothing? Don't think you're Chaim Kanievsky. Don't think you're Moshe LaHirsch. Don't think you're Herschel Schechter. Of course. But there are a lot of things we know. And that gives us a lot of confidence that we do know stuff and we do have access to things. And we have to access that. Okay, so I'm excited to again. Rabbi Yerucham was very very high. Here we're going down a few levels, but there is wisdom inside of us that we've learned, that we've curated, that we've refined, that we've defined, that we have. There are marmakomas in our heads. There are experiences. There are sources. There are lessons. There are anecdotes. There's wisdom. It's not and it's a shame for us not to tap into ourselves a little bit. I think it's a nice chiddush. It's a nice way to present it. Lomi Kol Adam, one of those people is ourselves. And I think this is a way to do it. And that's the Kabbalah for the week. When things come up, right? Some of us are close to the December. When things come up over the week, Dafka, don't excuse me one second. Fight the, fight the desire to go run somewhere else and find the answers inside yourself. See how you do. Okay, it's Lacharab. I'm looking forward to doing myself. I think everybody should have a lot of tzlachah this week. Good to be back. Shalom, shalom.